What's up everybody, this is VCentG with another quick tutorial. This one is going to be on how to make an infinite runner. It's super simple. I'm not going to go too in-depth, you'll have to just build upon what I'm giving you. But this is basically a super simple way to get it to work. So first, as requested, I'm going to show you how it looks so you can see. As you can see, the player starts running and objects start appearing. And it infinitely loops. And as you can see, the scene is only this big. So we clearly ran more than that, you know? So how are we going to do this? Very easily. We are going to have our player object. And this is literally it. There's nothing advanced here. You probably already have all of this stuff if you've started a game, which hopefully you did. This is basically our object that's going to hit the player. You may have multiple of these for the demo. I'm just making one that has randomized location. And then we're going to have a level generator, which if you're doing an endless runner, then you will basically do everything here. And if you are using a level-based runner, then you can program each level in an object like this and just do it different per scene. So resources, the only switch I've added is game start, which basically just says like the player's going to be running, objects need to start spawning. Simple. Just add one switch so we can use that. And let me show you what I did. So starting with the player, I have the default state wait, which is just standing there essentially, right? So before this, you would have your press start to play, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not going to make all of that stuff, so I just made a simple wait timer. 1 second. Game start on, common switch, game start on. And then template move settings, move left, right, start moving right, duration not set. So that will basically infinitely make the player run to the right. And you can see that as soon as we push play, he stands there for 1 second, starts running. Then, once game start is on, which it sets here after a second, it goes to go, which does nothing. This is basically your I'm running state. And then we have if you push A, it will jump. Nothing special here. And then the jump ends when you touch the floor. Simple. You probably already have all that stuff. This was just how the sample is laid out. It's not exactly advanced or anything, so super simple. If you need to make this stuff, Go doesn't have anything. Jump doesn't have anything other than perform jump. And then we link if HP is 0, if HP is 0. Super simple. Death. Now for the death, I just made a quick death scene. This infinite runner is actually going to move the player. When I initially did this, I was going to not move the player and move the camera instead. This is way simpler. And once you stop the player by changing horizontal movement to 0, which is what happens when you come here, it stops. It's almost like the game's paused because nothing else moves, because only the player moves in this demo. So, death. I have a little shake scene here. Wait 3 seconds, and then it's going to turn game start off. It's going to end scene, which is basically going to say we lost. In transitions, you can see this is the game scene. And then once previous scene ends, this is the only one you have to put, it goes to reset scene, and then after a tenth of a second, it goes back to scene 1. That's it. I think I also have it set to reset on, which is supposed to reset all your switches, but we don't really have any switches other than the one that we set once the player spawns, so for us that doesn't matter. So what you're going to need is your scene and a reset scene. This one doesn't need anything. It's literally just a screen or a scene to leave the beginning scene so that we can go back to the scene and reset everything. So you don't have to do anything here. If you want like a game over screen, you could put that here. Like that would be what you put here, and then you would make it link back to this scene however you want. So now that we've got our player set up where you can jump, that's basically all you can do. You can jump and die. Now we need an object to hit the player. So you will make your object that can hit the player. Of course, we don't want this affected by gravity because it's, floating or whatever. And we have 3 positions here. So low, it's going to be subtracting 0y coordinate. You could put whatever you want, depending on where you put your level generator. Medium, it's going to subtract 16, and high, it's going to subtract 32. Really easy. How is it going to get to these? It's just going to use probability. Use probability 33% that it's going to be high. And I set this processing order to 2. So it's going to check high first. If 33% is true, it'll make a high object. Same thing for this one, but processing order 1, 33%, and then it will go to medium. And then lastly, use probability 100%, processing order 0. So basically if this one fails, it'll go here. If this one fails, it'll go here automatically. So one of these will always be true. And then change unconditionally. So once the box is set, it will go to in play, which does nothing, right? You probably don't even need this, but I just like knowing that it went through this and went somewhere else. And then you also are going to set a common action, teleport. Now, teleport is literally going to just change the x coordinate for your object, all of them, not single, all of them, by negative 128. Now this number will vary for you based on your project, but we'll get into that in just a second. How do you make a common action? You hit this little cogwheel, check common action, and then you name it here, teleport, set everything up just like an action. And then as you can see, this is literally the exact same thing as the other one. Once you make it here, it will pop up here like this. Simple. So this is basically going to be your enemy. So make sure object settings, it's an enemy and it can attack player group. Okay? Now, there's something I need to add here. I'll just copy and paste this and we'll make destroy, right? And then add destroy object. And this is going to be if it is buried in a wall. We'll just try that. That may not be useful. And then let's just do after certain time passes. Let's do after 8 seconds. So this is not going to be the most efficient, but it will work. So basically, hopefully, this object will be off screen, scroll through the screen. Within 8 seconds, it'll be past the screen, right? And then it can just destroy. Just to have a simple mechanism for not stacking objects. And again, not affected by gravity. Make sure that's checked for everything. And then you will also need a level generator. Now this is what's going to spawn your objects that will attack the player, right? So default, I use the little torch animation that the sample pack already had. It doesn't need to do anything. Once game start is on, it's going to go to wait. So in default, it will do nothing. The timer won't start. It will literally do nothing. Once game start is on, it will go to wait. If game start goes off, it will go to default so that the timer is not going, because we don't want it spawning objects while the player is resetting or something like that, right? So it'll go to wait. What does wait do? Absolutely nothing other than wait for this link to be true, which is after 2 seconds, generate a box. Generate object, magic box. We don't have to do anything here because this will automatically place itself somewhere, and then change unconditionally, and it will go back to wait. And then after another 2 seconds, it'll generate another box, and then it'll go back to wait, and it will infinitely loop until the player dies, or until game start is off, which in this demo is when the player dies. So as you can see, super simple. Now, the hardest part of this is going to be getting your animation to look smooth. And here's how I did it. We are actually going to use portals. So you will go to Transitions, Portal Transfer, and you're going to have to set up. This is normally was already here, but you need one portal basically on the same scene, scene 1, scene 1. You don't have to worry about placing it here so much. You just need to make it exist. Make sure you do not set it to go back. So if you have this true, when the player touches both portals, they can go back and forth. We don't want to go back and forth, we just want to go back to infinitely loop. We don't want to reach the end of the level, so we just need to teleport back. And then make sure the center of your object, which as you can see here, if we click player, is the floor, is down here. So this portal needs to touch the floor of the player. So if this is too high, like say there was a little gap here, the player would walk through this portal and not teleport, because it's not based on wall detection or anything, it's only based on the center. So make sure your portal's low enough, and make sure your portal's high enough that if the player is jumping during this, they will still go through the portal. And again, you want this to be gray because we only want this to be one way. We don't want to teleport back. I mean, this is the opposite of what we're doing, but you can see basically portal A is the one I used. You could, if it really bugs you that much, you could do it this way, and then you would just set portal A settings, or you would set these settings here instead. But we're doing it this way because I just wanted to do the first settings. So you can see here, we don't do anything. So we have portal A, which I put in front of the player, and then portal B, which I put basically on the player. And then when player A, or when the player touches portal A, they will teleport to portal B, which is just how portals work, default. So this will automatically loop your player infinitely, right? They're moving to the right, they hit the portal, teleport backwards, and they're still moving to the right, they're going to hit it again and again and again, infinite. Now we need to run objects action program, magic box all, common action, teleport. I have both of these set to all, and in the common action it's set to all. For some reason, when I did all here and did single here, it didn't teleport, so I just did all. It works, so it's not double teleporting, so I'm just going to call it good. Again, B to A doesn't matter. We're only doing A to B. A is the one in front, B is the one in back. Super simple. Now, if you need to, how you're going to need to adjust this, your portals, you want this distance to be equal to basically your loop. So your parallax, if you have like clouds in the background or something, you don't want to teleport back to where the screen from where you teleported from and where you teleported to is different. So you need to make sure that everything looks exactly the same here as it does here when the player is here. For me, I don't have a background, so this was super easy. There's no background. I don't have to worry about if there's a cloud right here, will the cloud be right here when the player teleports back? We only have the ground, which, as you can see, is here. This is a 16 by 16 tile set, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 tiles looping. You can see these have like the same loop over and over. So 8 times 16, that's 80 plus 48, so 128. Simple math. So 128 just happens to be the distance between these two portals, 241, 369. So this is a perfect loop. When the player touches here, we'll teleport here, and the screen will perfectly match because it's set to 128. So the only other thing you will have to do for your player is make sure that your starting area, starting point, or if you put a player object here, that's also possible, but make sure that your player isn't over here. Because if your player is too far left, the camera will be here, right? The camera will be here and your player will be over here. So your player won't be in the center. So make sure you put your players far enough to the right that the camera has room on the left side so that it doesn't hit the wall and not center the player. And then other thing to do in the camera, make sure it is set camera default position, controllable player object, and make sure camera target is player. Or you could do controllable player group, but I just did player. You can easily make this game multiplayer and have it scroll show all players. You can put player 2 right behind player 1 if that's your thing. And that's it. The camera will follow the player, and the player is just going to go from here to here, and it's just going to infinitely loop. And then boxes will spawn here, and they will teleport each time the player goes here, and it will look smooth. So for me, I just made an infinite loop where it ends the scene, the player dies, and that's really it. You just also make sure that your box, make sure it has attack detection, of course, because it's going to hit the player. And then if you want the player to take multiple hits before it ends, make sure you set player HP, say to 3, set invincibility for 1 second. You can have them blink if you want. But then if we do it this way, the player will run, and we can jump. Oh, we can get hit, we can get hit, and we can get hit, and we'll die on the third one. So easy to edit. Hopefully this was quick enough to show everything. I do pose a question for anyone that uses this. I don't know if this setting is just weird, but I cannot jump the first time I press the spacebar. I don't know if that's because I'm using template move or what. But I have my spacebar to do A. As you can see, it jumps every time I push it. However, if you can hear my keyboard, the first time I push it, it doesn't work. I don't know if that's my thing or if that's because I use this demo, but just something to keep in mind. You may need to figure out what is causing that issue if that is because of this system. So if this was helpful, leave a like, leave a comment. If you have any questions, I would be happy to help you. And yeah, I'll see you on the next tutorial. Hopefully I went over everything. But I mean, there's really nothing else to do. Oh yeah, and if you're going to make more objects than just one, of course, in your generate box, you can use probability, and then it can generate a box, or it can generate, a bird, or whatever your situation is. So it's super easy to take this and add more things to it. It's actually a lot more simple than I originally had thought it would be. Again, I've never done this. Most of these tutorials I'm doing for the first time, and then I'm just showing you what I did and if it works. So yeah. And again, I will put this on itch.io. Depending on if you somehow see this video as soon as I upload it, it may not have the link because it might not be uploaded yet, but it will be up there. And that's itch.io/vcentg. And again, a link will be in the description. So thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.